$347 billion. That's the value of American homes sitting on the market right now that can't find a single buyer. Not homes that sold at a discount, not foreclosures, homes that are listed, marketed, photographed, price cut, and getting nothing. According to Redfin, a record 52.2% of all listings in America, more than half, have been sitting at least 60 days without an accepted offer. And Redfin's economists point to one stunning reason. There are now a record 630,000 more home sellers than buyers in this country. So when the title of this video says $347 billion in unsold homes and sellers who can't find a single buyer, that's not an exaggeration. That's the official data. And today, we're going to show you exactly how we got here through one house in Nashville, Tennessee that tells the whole story. Here's what's coming. Number one, we're going to walk you through the dollar-by-dollar price history of a house that has been listed, cut, and relisted again and again over roughly 3 years without ever closing a sale. Because once you see this pattern, you'll start recognizing it on your own street. Number two, we're going to show you the one mistake sellers are making right now that Redfin's own economists say is costing them tens of thousands of dollars. And it's not what most people think. And number three, we're going to answer the question sitting in the back of everyone's mind. Is this 2008 all over again? The answer is going to upset the crash crowd and the everything is fine crowd at the same time. Stick with us because this is the clearest picture of the 2026 housing market you'll find anywhere. Let me take you to Scott Avenue in East Nashville. 2117 Scott Avenue is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,434 square feet, built in 1953, sitting on over half an acre with no HOA. On paper, it's exactly the kind of house buyers say they want. Public records show it last traded back in 2022. And since then, this house has been through roughly 3 separate listing rounds across roughly 3 years. First, an as-is listing around $349,900. Then a renovated relaunch near $579,900 that got cut to $549,900. And then the current listing, which went live on January 23, 2026, at $540,000. Now, watch what happens. March 19th, cut to $535,000. April 14th, cut to $525,000. May 8th, down to $510,000. May 28th, $495,000. That's 4 price cuts in 4 months. $45,000 gone, an 8.3% haircut, and still no recorded sale. Years of trying, multiple listings, 0 closings. Think about that. A move-in ready house in one of the most hyped migration cities of the entire pandemic era, and the seller can't find a single buyer willing to sign. And before you write this off as one unlucky property, let me show you the national numbers because this isn't an outlier. This is now the majority of the market. Redfin reports that in February 2026, the share of listings sitting unsold for 60 days or longer hit 52.2%. The highest share for any February on record, worth that $347 billion I opened with. The typical home that actually did go under contract in February took 66 days, the slowest February pace since 2016. And sellers are blinking. A record 34.2% of sellers cut their asking price in February, and the ones who cut slashed an average of $40,915, 7.3% off the price. Here's the kicker. Thousands of sellers aren't even cutting anymore. They're surrendering. In April, sellers pulled 5.8% of all listings off the market entirely, tied for the highest share since March 2020. And here's the tell that they haven't given up. They're just regrouping. Roughly 45,000 previously delisted homes came back onto the market in January alone, the biggest January relisting wave since 2016. These are the zombie listings, folks. Homes that failed once, disappeared, and are now back wearing a fresh coat of marketing, and buyers can see the history with 2 clicks. So why is this happening? Why can't sellers find buyers? It comes down to a standoff, and we want to explain this to you with real data, not vibes. Start with mortgage rates. Freddie Mac's latest weekly survey has the 30-year fixed at 6.58%. And chief economist Sam Cotter notes rates have barely moved for months. Now layer on what the Federal Housing Finance Agency calls the lock-in effect. Their researchers found that for every 1 percentage point a homeowner's existing rate sits below market rates, their probability of selling drops by 18.1%. And that lock-in prevented an estimated 1.72 million home sales in just 2 years. 50.6% of all mortgages in America still carry rates below 4%. So the move-up buyer, the person who traditionally buys these mid-market homes, is frozen in place. Meanwhile, sellers are still pricing like it's 2022, anchored to peak pandemic values, while buyers are looking at a $2,700 monthly payment and walking away. That's the standoff. Sellers pricing for a market that ended 4 years ago, and buyers refusing to fund the fantasy. And don't take our word for it. Listen to the people in the trenches. Redfin agent Jason Gale said it perfectly this spring. Sellers know it's a buyer's market, but they still list on the high end, expecting buyers to negotiate down, and that's exactly what's leaving listings sitting for months. Because 9 times out of 10 homes are selling under asking. And sometimes the price is just too high, and sellers end up pulling the home off the market after 6 months. That is a working agent describing the Scott Avenue playbook word for word. Now, let me deliver on promise number 1, because the Nashville data explains exactly why that Scott Avenue house can't sell. Redfin just named Nashville the number 2 buyer's market in the entire country, eclipsed only by Miami. Sellers outnumber buyers in Nashville by 129%. Read that again. For every buyer in that market, there are more than 2 sellers competing for them. The typical Nashville home now takes 78 days to go under contract versus 49 nationally. And the pattern repeats across the Sun Belt. 62.6% of Miami listings are stale, 58.3% in San Antonio, 55.9% in West Palm Beach, 55.7% in Orlando, 54.8% in Nashville. And it's not just the Sun Belt, because Pittsburgh sits at 58.1%. And why are so many sellers flooding in anyway? Nashville Redfin agent Kristen Sanchez explained it. Homeowners with super low interest rates have delayed life changes for years. And now those life events, the job moves, the divorces, the growing families, can't be postponed any longer. So they're listing despite higher rates. So the mystery of Scott Avenue isn't the house. The house is fine. The mystery is math. When sellers outnumber buyers 2 to 1 and more sellers arrive every month because life won't wait, the buyer doesn't have to show up at your price. And in these markets, they simply aren't. Real quick, if this market intel is helping you make better decisions, hit that notification bell. We drop new housing data every week, and the viewers who catch it first get the best opportunities. The bell ensures you see everything immediately, not days later when the market's already moved. Now, let's climb the price ladder, because this standoff goes all the way to the top. On Chicago's North Shore, a 5.3-acre lakefront estate in Lake Forest debuted at $27.5 million in September 2024. Got chopped all the way to $17 million, a 38% cut, and this July, the sellers pulled it off the market entirely without a sale. In Manhattan, the famous Woolworth Mansion chased the market down for 14 years, from $90 million to $49.95 million. A 44% collapse in asking price, before finally going under contract. And wait, it gets worse for sellers everywhere, because Redfin's data shows 62% of all buyers in 2025 paid below the original list price. Under asking is no longer the exception, everyone. It's now the standard outcome of an American home sale. Which brings me to promise number 2. The mistake that's costing sellers tens of thousands of dollars. It's the oldest line in real estate. Let's price it high and leave room to negotiate. In this market, that strategy is financial self-harm. And Redfin's economists have the receipts. Their research shows overpricing a home by 10% or more adds over a month to its time on market. And homes that take price cuts ultimately sell for less than comparable homes priced right from day one. Because buyers see the cut, see the days on market, and smell blood. Here's the controversial part, and we'll stand on it because the data does. In 2026, a price cut is not a strategy. It's a confession. It tells every buyer scrolling Zillow that the market already rejected you, and it invites them to bid even lower. Let me make this concrete with real math from that Nashville house. At the original $540,000 list price with 20% down at 6.58%, the principal and interest payment is $2,753 a month. At today's $495,000, it's $2,524. That $45,000 in cuts handed the eventual buyer $229 a month, over $82,000 across a 30-year loan. The seller spent months absorbing carrying costs, taxes, and stigma just to arrive at a price they could have chosen on day one, and probably sold at in weeks in a market where correctly priced homes still move. Now, for promise number 3, is this 2008 all over again? Here's where we upset everybody. No. And the people telling you it is aren't showing you the distress data. In the 2008 bust, national prices fell roughly 26% peak to trough on the Case-Shiller Index. Foreclosures ran over 1 million a year, and distressed sales hit nearly half of all transactions. Today, the Case-Shiller National Index is up 1.1% year over year. The Mortgage Bankers Association puts seriously delinquent loans at just 2.03%. And NAR reports distressed sales were just 2% of June transactions, near historic lows. NAR's Lawrence Yun is actually forecasting sales and prices up about 4% this year. Housing Wire's Logan Montashami puts it plainly. As long as rates hold near current levels, sales grind sideways to slightly higher. So this is not a foreclosure crisis. This is a buyer's strike. The correction is real, but it's being paid in time, price cuts, and concessions instead of foreclosures. Sellers waiting 78 days, cutting $40,000, or pulling their homes off the market entirely. And here's the part that should get your attention. Standoffs end. Either rates fall and buyers return, or sellers capitulate on price. Every month of record stale inventory pushes us closer to finding out which. So what do you do with this? If you're a seller, price to today's comps on day one, not 2022's memories. The first 2 weeks of a listing generate your most qualified buyers, and the data is screaming that chasing the market down costs you tens of thousands and months of your life. If you're a buyer, this is the most leverage you've had in over a decade. Target listings sitting 60-plus days. That's more than half the market. And negotiate hard. Price, closing costs, rate buydowns, repairs. The stale listing you're afraid of is often just an overpriced good house waiting for a serious offer. And if you're a homeowner or investor, understand your local market before you make any move. If your metro is on that stale list, your equity is being repriced in slow motion, and pretending otherwise is how people get trapped. Discipline beats drama. The opportunity in 2026 is a good asset that has become negotiable, not a distressed fire sale that isn't coming. Bookmark this video. Come back in 6 months and check every single number we just showed you. The 52.2%, the 630,000 gap, the 78 days, because that's how confident we are in this data. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so the next video lands in your feed the moment it drops, and watch this one next. We'll see you next time.